There are three things that are certain in this life: death, taxes, and eventually disappointing your parents with the choice of a project car. For me, that specific car was a Nissan 350Z. It barely ran, my dad worked on it more than I did, and I loved every gosh darn second of it and miss it every single day. But for a lot of people in 2025, that car is slowly becoming none other than the BMW E9X. Hello everyone, my name is Mark Roden, and this is what makes the BMW E9X so great. As always with my glorious deep dives, I cannot just jump right into talking about the E9X without first giving you guys a quick little history lesson to the car itself. For those who don't know, the BMW 3 Series, which is what this car is, has been a household name for quite some time now, but it hasn't always been that way. Back in the 70s, BMW was known as a very high-end motorsports-oriented brand, comparable to the likes of Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Ferrari today. And just like those companies, that is not a very profitable way to run a car company. Just like how having over 80% of your viewers not be subscribed to your YouTube channel is not a very profitable way to run a YouTube channel. But how would I know? Surely my viewers are Chaz and they're subscribed, right? Right? Either way, since it wasn't profitable, in 1975 they decided to finally release an actually somewhat affordable car for the average person, the BMW 3 Series E21. This car was fine, nothing really to write home about, but it did allow them to make what is in most people's opinions the best BMW to ever be built, the E30. This car was a rocket ship and dominated in almost every single form of motorsports available to the car at the time, with the launch of the wonderful M3 model. The rest is history. The BMW M3 has become a staple of the sports car world, and I would make an argument that besides the Porsche 911, it's probably the most influential and well-known German sports car out there. However, even though the car's motorsports history has been undeniably incredible, its reputation amongst consumers has been controversial to say the least. European cars in general have been the forefathers in the field of unreliable cars, and the reason for that is quite simple. Their engineering is far more advanced than Japanese or American cars, and because of that, they require significantly more maintenance and preventative measures that the vast majority of daily commuters are, simply put, just not ready for. And unfortunately, the BMW E9X, or the fifth generation of the BMW 3 Series, was exactly the same. The launch of the BMW E9X, as it's referred to as most of the time, happened in 2004, which is actually a lot earlier than I thought it was, to be honest, and at first, it wasn't doing so hot, selling at right around 450,000 miles per year, which, sir, sounds like a lot, don't get me wrong, but the previous year, the E46 3 Series sold almost 520,000 models, and typically, the launch of a new generation would actually do the opposite and raise the sale numbers by a significant amount. So, what was happening here? Well, it's simple really. German automakers' reliability rating at the time was getting even worse, and to be honest, the E46 didn't help BMW's case. Listen, I love the E46 more than anything in this world, just like I'm sure you do, but if we look at it unbiasedly, that car was a pain to work on, and whenever it had any problems, which wasn't rare at all for the car, it costed an arm and a leg to get it fixed. Because of this, people didn't trust BMW anymore, and they were waiting to see what people had to say about them before buying one. And also, the enthusiasts weren't too happy with the E9X either, since it barely made any strides in performance at launch, and they were not a fan of the curved edges just yet, which by the way happens with every single BMW. I like to call it the BMW cycle. It goes like this: a BMW gets revealed to the world, car guys say it's ugly. A BMW gets released to the world, and car guys start saying that they never hated it or that it's overhated. And then a BMW starts to get modified, and car guys unanimously fall in love with it. Like, remember when people were hating on the looks of the F80 M3? That thing is absolutely gorgeous, but since it was new, people said it was ugly back then when it was released, which is just crazy to me. Either way, sorry for my yapping, but this car was not received very well at launch in 2004, and as a matter of fact, it would take 2 whole years before the car started to see any praise whatsoever, and it of course came from the car guy side with the launch of one of the most incredible tuner cars out there right now.
How do you get the performance of a 4-litre V8 engine into a compact, lightweight 6-cylinder? BMW has developed a twin-turbo. And what a twin-turbo it is.
That's right. Up until 2006, the BMW 3 Series only went as high as the 330i trim in the E46, and to be honest, the 330i wasn't really much to write home about when comparing it to the 328i E46. However, with the launch of the 335i E9X, this would all change. The first major difference with the car was the body styles. This was the first year that the E92 would be built, and I think it's safe to say that most people agree the E92, which is the coupe for this generation for those who don't know, is easily the Margot Robbie of the E9X body styles. It's freaking gorgeous, and most people agreed with that statement back in 2006 as well. The second major advancement for the 335i was, of course, the motor. At this point in BMW's runtime, they have made a pretty significant name for themselves for making some pretty fun, albeit unreliable, naturally aspirated straight six motors. As a matter of fact, the BMW straight six is a staple to the car's name nowadays, and if I'm being honest, I think the 335i had a pretty big role in that. This was the first time ever that BMW would put a turbo on a 3 Series, and they decided to put 2 of them there, which helped the car reach a very respectable 306 horsepower from factory. This motor was called the N54B30, but it is more commonly just referred to as the N54, and it has been compared to the wonderful 2JZ GTE time and time again by many car guys, myself included, for its absolute Thanos level of a block. It is not rare in the slightest bit to see the N54 make upwards of 800 horsepower on stock internals, and this car alone is what started the whole downpipe and tune craze that the car scene is in today, because that was all you needed to do to the 335i to make upwards of 500 horsepower on stock internals, which is absolutely insane for 2006. Sure, there are a lot of sports cars nowadays that benefit greatly and much more reliably than the N54 does, but remember, this was back in 2006. That was not a very common thing to be able to do. The only major downside to the N54, and trust me, it is a pretty big downside to be fair, is the motor's reliability. Unfortunately, when you look up N54 common problems, the possibilities are endless, and because of that, these cars have a horrible reputation within the car community today for maybe not being the best option out there for new car guys looking to get into something fun that won't break the bank, because yes, it is definitely a fun car, but yes, it also will most likely break the bank, especially if you're new to the car world and are not ready for the sheer amount of maintenance that this motor requires, which leads me back to my intro. This is the car you buy if you want to disappoint your parents. There were a couple of other things that the 335i touched up on and made the car an overall better driving experience than the others in the lineup at the time. Things like the suspension being stiffer, wheels being bigger, and a bunch of other just quality of life upgrades to this car made it a very nice upgrade compared to the 328i or 330i at the time. But I would actually like to talk about those trims for a minute, because my pacing is horrible and I probably should have talked about them before I talked about the 335i, but I was just too excited. Well, the 328i and the 330i both came with a 3-liter straight six as well, but this time without the 2 turbos. It was called the N52, and while it most definitely is nowhere near as strong as the N54 when it comes to building power, these cars are still, in my opinion, very decent options if you want to have a fun little BMW for dirt cheap. The 328i makes 231 horsepower and the 330i makes 255 horsepower. Both are obviously nowhere near the 335i, and it doesn't have anywhere close to the same amount of aftermarket potential, but the payoff is both the fact that they are cheaper to buy and much cheaper to maintain than the 335i, since the turbos aren't there anymore. I want to make it clear that this is not me saying a 328i E92 is a reliable car though, just that it's more reliable than the 335i. If you're looking strictly for reliability and you don't care at all about having fun, just get a Civic or a Camry. Pretty much to sum up this little segment, I think people, especially young people looking to get into the car world, massively overlook the 328i E92s simply because they're not as good power-wise as the 335i. But I'm sure almost any unk out there, myself included, will tell you that you do not need much more than 250 horsepower anyways to have a bunch of fun when you're first learning, especially if you get a rear-wheel drive manual one. So if you believe you're not ready to take on the excruciating task of owning an N54, then maybe look at the 328i's instead. Both have their strengths and weaknesses.
Both is good.
But fine, you scallywags, I can hear you all from here. You want me to talk about it, don't you? Fine, here we go. The M3 came back and it was pretty cool. There, you happy now? Thanks for watching the video. Das Vidania and have a nice night. Nah, I'm just kidding, we'll talk about it. As with every single generation of the 3 Series besides the first one, they would of course give the E9X the M package, which to be honest has kind of lost its meaning in today's standards since they just slap the M badge on quite literally anything that they can nowadays. But back in 2007, which is when the M3 for this generation was launched, this was a huge deal. Just like with every single M3 besides the E36 for some reason, the first thing you would notice when looking at the E92 M3 is them gosh darn Pixar mom level thighs that this car has. They of course made both the quarter panels and fenders wider than the base model since this car was going to be making a lot more power. So they needed room to fit the bigger tires under the car itself. And boy oh boy did it make a whole lot more power. The E9X M3 is commonly referred to as the last true M car for a multitude of reasons. First off is the car's steering. See, nowadays almost every single car you will sit in post 2015 is going to have electric power steering, which to be honest does make for a much more comfortable and safe driving experience, but unfortunately takes away from the raw race car feeling that you get with hydraulic power steering pumps, and this was the last M3 to have it. The next major reason as to why this car is the last true M3 to most people is of course the engine, which to me is kind of confusing, but either way I'll tell you what they think and then say what I think and then let you decide. The average car guy says this is the last true M3 because it was the last M3 to offer a naturally aspirated motor. As a matter of fact, the motor was one of the coolest BMW has ever made in my opinion, the S65, which was a 4-liter naturally aspirated V8 making 414 horsepower going to the rear wheels. Obviously this was the most amount of power they've ever seen in a 3 Series at the time, and it is still to this day extremely impressive that they did this in a car weighing in at only 3,600 pounds all the way back in 2007. However, my main problem with the whole this is a true M car because it's naturally aspirated theory is, don't you think an M car should come with a straight 6? Don't get me wrong, I think the S65 is awesome and a V8 in a BMW is one of the coolest things in the world and it makes some of the coolest sounds of any BMW of all time. But if you're going to criticize the F80 for adding turbos, I think it's fair to criticize the E92 for straying away from the straight 6 that every single M3 has had up until this point. Nevertheless, the E92 M3 is an extremely popular car, and I think you'll be hard-pressed to find anyone who disagrees with that. Yes, it's horribly unreliable yet again, but at this point you should be expecting that anyways, and it is no secret that it will go down in history as one of the most legendary sports cars of the 2000s.
Now, this is epic.
In 2008, the E9X would get a facelift, which wasn't super necessary in my opinion, but definitely looked better, so I'm not complaining. And in 2010, the 335i would fix most of its major reliability issues with the launch of the N55, and set itself apart from the base models with the M Sport package, making the car look much more aggressive than the 328i and 330i, while still being much more aggressive in terms of horsepower numbers and now being reliable. All in all, the BMW 3 Series E9X had an extremely rough and controversial history and is still to this day commonly debated on whether or not the impressive performance numbers outweighs the poor reliability with the car. From the lackluster launch of the car in 2004 to the strive for excellence in 2006 and 2007, this car was definitely one of the most interesting that I've been blessed enough to make a deep dive on so far. Which, by the way, thank you all so much for the support on these deep dive what makes it great vids. They take a while to make and sometimes I feel like it's pointless, but then the views show me that it's not, so I appreciate it. Either way, most of the cars to talk about are pretty cut and dry. Like the LS400, for example, is just an incredible car in everything that it set out to do, and the EG Civic is like the epitome of a sleeper car, but the E9X BMW is one that will never sit right with everyone, and I think that's okay. Cars like this are necessary for a manufacturer's history because it allows them to work out the kinks while keeping the perfection. If you want my uneducated opinion on it though, the 328i or 330i is a very underrated and fun little sports sedan or coupe that you can buy for under $5,000 nowadays. The 335i is a tuner icon at this point, and the N54 will continue to be modded to the moon and back and will continue to scare guys on the highway when one pulls up with an ECS sticker on the window and you can't tell if it's got 300 horsepower or 700. And the M3 will most likely go down in history to many, even though it is not to me, as the last true M car. And that, my friends, is what makes the BMW E9X so great. ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video on what makes the BMW 3 Series E9X, E90, E91, E92, E93, whatever you want to call it, so gosh darn great. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos I'd like to see in the comment section down below. Check the links in the description for any of my other social medias or any of my other YouTube channels or any of that great mumbo jumbo. I will be leaving a comment down below with my new YouTube channel where I'll be uploading any sort of non-Mark Roden car content. I'm just gonna yap, okay? I like to yap, as you guys know, and on that channel I'm going to yap. My hairline, oh my god, oh that's depressing, oh that is sad. Hold on, oh that is sad, oh that hurts, yep, that hurts. Oh, now I look good though, look at that. Hello burner. Hats do wonders. Anyways, yeah, it'll be down below if you guys are interested in hearing me yap more about things that aren't just car related. I'm not going to have any upload schedule, no editing on that channel. It's literally just going to be a channel for me to just get out my thoughts, because I have ADHD and I just gotta talk all the time, which is literally the reason why I started this YouTube channel in the first place, for those who don't know. I loved talking about cars, had nobody to talk about cars to, made a YouTube channel so I could talk to myself about them while not seeming like a crazy person, uploaded them, and other people for some reason enjoyed it, so it worked out, I guess. But either way, yeah, that is the end of today's video. Dude, we have been pumping out these freaking What Makes It Greats, man. This one was really fun to make, actually, because as you guys know, I already love BMWs, but the E9X chassis is one of my favorites, just because, again, like what I talked about in the video, there are so many people that love it, and then there are so many people that hate it, and then it's just such an interesting one for me. Like, the E46 is almost unanimously loved, right? At this point, I would say the F80 and the F82, that F3X chassis, that generation, is also almost unanimously loved at this point. The E36 unanimously loved, the E30 unanimously loved, but the E92 is still to this day just kind of looked at with a weird vision for most people, I feel like. Maybe the F80 is still kind of in that area as well, and the G80 is definitely still in that area because it's so new. It always happens with the new ones. But the E90, I don't know, I just really am interested in it. And then the 335i, like, yeah, the M3 E92 is super interesting, and I love that car, obviously, but the 335i E92 is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting cars out there right now. They're just so divisive and so, like, it's just such a, it's like gambling with that car, man. It's freaking cool. I love it. But anyways, yeah, that is the end of today's video. We've been doing, like I said, we've been pumping out the deep dives. Obviously, since this is a new deep dive, not a re-upload, the next one will be a re-upload. We're trying to get all those done. I know it's probably annoying if you've already watched them before, but we are, like I said, man, we're just trying to get them done and get the re-uploads out there, because I want to start fresh and have them all in one place and everything like that. So next is going to be a re-upload. I think we're going to do the Saab video. We're going to re-upload the What Makes Saab so great, because obviously, yeah, that's one of the ones I want to do. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.